So my presentation is about teacher networks and how competition might influence the formation and the development of ties within networks, and what organizations can do to make networks more helpful for teachers and how they can improve their systems with that. So what are teacher networks? Networks are systems of contacts. They can be narrowly defined, like just the people that I share my materials with, or that could be more broad, like all the people that I talk to about work. So often sociologists will talk about social capital, which is the resources available through a network. So research shows that networks in schools are actually really important. Siciliano found that deeper and stronger networks are associated with better performance across a wide range of schools. Carrie Liana, with a huge study in New York in 2011, found that teachers with greater social capital, which generally means wider networks, have much better performance than others. So how do these matter? They matter through implementation of reform. The more people you talk to, the better able you are to do change. It matters. Teachers with deeper networks stay longer. They're happier. Think back to the Break piece on collegiality in the classroom and the school to think about how they might change the way an organization works. But it doesn't mean that they're easy to build. Schools are often places where teachers operate separately and individually, and each teacher always has a different style. So it's not something that comes naturally to a school as an organization. But there are things that we can do to make the organization more open to building networks and facilitating collaboration and sharing. So Cynthia Coburn found that district policy can actually have a big influence on the strength and density of ties. By setting up new structures, they could build networks. So one of the big things they had to do was set goals and reinforce collaboration as a value. They had to communicate those goals throughout the organization and made it clear that collaboration and network building was something that was valued, something that the organization does. But you also have to back that up with structural and routine changes. So you have to break apart that closed door policy, making collaboration a routine. Cynthia Coburn found that when those routines of collaboration were implemented with support from above, the collaboration continued, the routines continued even after the support had been withdrawn. But then even more important is to pay attention to the culture and the politics. Even with the structures in place, you need to make sure that everyone has chances to be involved, everyone has chances to facilitate partnerships and networks where that is possible. So, and then last, you got to stick with it. It's not something that happens overnight. Teachers need time to develop and trust. Cynthia Coburn found that in the early years of reforms, collaboration was really shallow, but then in later years, as teachers got used to working together, trust built up and became a lot deeper. So, how are charter schools doing? And that we don't really know. All of the research I could find on teacher networks was conducted in traditional school districts. Anecdotally, as teachers within some charter schools have lots of opportunities for collaboration. I myself was in a CMO where we had that, but it's really unclear how that's actually used. So there are some problems that are unique to CMOs. Research shows that their teachers are considerably younger. They stay in teaching for a shorter period of time, and they're less secure in their jobs. So often these teachers are subject to performance pressure because of competition as well, which might affect the way that they collaborate with their peers. So competition could go either way. It might make people work harder. There are some cases where competitive pressure encourages people to innovate and build networks of support. Think about a team, like a sports team, where competition makes people actually work harder. But competition could force teachers apart too. I saw this happen in my own CMO, where teachers who were supposed to share materials and advice with each other just didn't. Or maybe they would share minimal amounts to make it look like they were, because that was something that people paid lip service to. But they wanted to guard their own advantage instead of helping everybody out. So there's some evidence that this happens in other places too. There's been lots of studies on the ways that scientists share their materials or don't share their materials. And in a lot of cases, scientists don't share data with other scientists, even though they know that this is for the greater good. So what can we do in CMOs to foster collaborative communities instead of competitive ones. We need to look at changes in the goals, changes in the structures, changes in the routines, and then most importantly, changes in the culture. So instead of focusing on individuals, I think one of the most important things for CMOs to do is to focus on the whole. CMOs often give awards and recognition for individual people, but instead it might be better to focus on how a whole team is doing, maybe how a whole school or whole grade is doing. And that might change the mindset. You also have to change the structure and routines. That's probably one of the most important things is you have to build collaboration into school hours and professional development. If you do this, people are going to be able to make those deeper connections than before. They're going to be able to implement things in their class if they have the time to do it. And then most important, change the culture to be team focused. This is kind of piggybacks off of the goals series because people they have to feel like this is important and they have to feel like the team is valued. The incentives should be there for the team. That should all exist. So in the future, I actually have the opportunity to go to New Orleans and study this within CMOs. I'm going to be asking and interviewing a lot of teachers and principals. And so I would love some feedback on what kinds of questions to ask and how to get the best information out of it. Here are some of the works that I cited in here. If you want other ones, I have a whole bunch. Please let me know. I love talking about this stuff.